Hi, and welcome to the Good Goobyes Funeral Myth-Busting Podcast. On the show, you will hear us, your hosts, Simon, a funeral director, and Tina, an independent celebrant, chat about all things funerals, death, and dying to help you navigate the planning of your good goodbye for yourself or the people in your lives.
Sometimes we have funeral industry guests, and sometimes we just chat through funerals, death, and dying. We do this with kindness and sometimes humour. We're based in Devon in the UK, and we hope you enjoy the show ahead. Hello and welcome to Good Goobyes. This is Tina.
And this is Si. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Today, we are going to talk about something that I have a problem with. Tina, no doubt, has a problem with. But how can we address it? How can we put it in people's consciousness? People speaking at a funeral, delivering a tribute, a eulogy, whatever it might be. How long should you talk for? How long is too long? And what problems does it cause if you keep on going?
Yes. Oh, yes. So this is quite a dilemma for a few reasons, really. One is because you may or may not, depending where you have your service, have limited time. So that's the first thing. You might have to politely stick to a time window in which to say the things that you need to say. So that's the first thing. And at funerals, in crematoriums, and probably in some churches as well, there could be somebody else who needs the space in an hour's time. So you have to just be aware that you have been given a slot to talk in, and you need to keep to that timing. And some humans aren't good at keeping to time. They might be late in their own lives, or they might be people who don't have a strong awareness of time. So, once they start, they just keep expanding and filling the space ahead of them until such time as somebody, and I'm sure we all know somebody like this in our lifetime, until such time as somebody tries to interrupt them or tries to stop them from talking.
Yeah, I hope it's not me. But yeah, it's very true that there are certain people that don't necessarily like the sound of their own voice, but just can always fill the silence. And I think what's important with funeral services especially is that it's important to say the right things, not everything. I say to all of my clients all the time, if you're going to speak, write it down. Take the time to write it down. Everything that you want to say, word for word, because that way you've got a guide. You're not going to drift too far from it. You're not going to get lost in what you have said or haven't said. But also, it helps plan the service, because Tina will instinctually look at 3 sides of A4 paper and say, right, I know how long that's going to take for you to read, and plan around it. If you say, oh yeah, I'm just going to get up and talk about his life, that's very open-ended.
Yeah. And also it can be quite awkward for the officiant, the celebrant, and the family, because they might have said, oh, his friend wants to say something, and often it comes alongside a thing, with additional information, but they speak publicly, or they're very confident speaker, or they'll be fine, which isn't always reassuring to me to hear those things. And then they'll say he's just going to speak off the cuff, which is the most fearful phrase I get. To speak off the cuff, don't do that, because who knows what you're going to say. Now, you might be a confident person who can speak off the cuff, but what you say, we will not know about in advance, exactly as Si said, because you haven't written anything down, you haven't shared it with your celebrant or anyone else. And then you might repeat and duplicate what the family have asked the celebrant or minister to say. You might repeat what other family members are going to say. And they are the ones who wanted to say that. So by you kind of stealing their thunder, that can also feel a bit awkward. So when I get things in advance, what that allows me to do in the craft of celebrant is think, John is saying that, but Fred is also saying that. So I will not say that, because I prefer the family to speak those words. So it allows me to take stuff out of my bit, and and my preference is always that the family would say it instead. So you get that. That is it's more helpful when you know what's going to be said and how long it's going to take. And you always give a tiny bit of latitude for the fact that people might be a bit upset, or, just take a while to compose themselves, or add a few sentences. It took me a while to write this. I was thinking a lot about all my friendship years with John. Fair dues. But yeah, it's people who also then give you something and then add, and then have added to it. So, you're sitting there thinking, this is 5 minutes. And then they just go, oh, and that also reminds me of that story of that time when we all went to Spain, and you think, oh my God, here we go. I try and treat it quite lightly. So I don't know what you do, but I often say to people things like, please stick to time. It is important that you do. All of the stories and wonderful things can be shared at the wake and afterwards. Don't forget you've got that lovely opportunity. And I say, if I feel you're going to go on for too long, I probably will rugby tackle you. I just try and keep it
I
light.
would like to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine you thundering down.
Yes, and enough. But you do hear stories of celebrants who've had to, walk up to the person and say, thank you. Thank you. Shall we stop there?
Yeah.
And stop them, which is also a tad awkward for everyone concerned.
I think we've all stood in services as well. The professionals listening to this, no doubt, where you've had the chapel attendant in a crematorium tapping their watch, looking at you as if to say, what are you going to do about this? It's very difficult to do anything about it. Because you don't want to upset anyone. You don't want any awkwardness in the service, because that service should be a place of calm, and it does make it difficult. Circling back to something Tina mentioned a minute ago about might take them a little bit longer to say what they need to say because of their emotions, the upset. There's another level to that. What if you can't say it? What if you're so upset you're unable to speak how you wanted to speak? If it's written down, you can very easily pass that off to someone else to speak on your behalf. If you've decided to go off the cuff, you can stand up there, struggle to get it out for 5 minutes, and left it all unsaid. And that's really sad for you, actually. So don't put yourself in that position.
Yeah. I also feel our clients are always the family, or the person organising the funeral. They are my client. Yeah, your client, the person who's paying for and organise the funeral. So if they don't know what's going to be said, it's also a bit of a kind of a left field thing for them, because it hasn't happened to me, but another celebrant told me that somebody got up to speak and said some things that the family found really awkward. They hadn't I think the person in question had been a little bit friendly with many women. Right. And this person got up and said something about that. As we all know, he was a bit of a ladies' man and he put himself about a bit, but eventually he settled down with doo-dah.
Wife number 4, not overly thrilled.
Yeah, and people were like, oh my God. And afterwards, there was awkwardness and a bit of anger because nobody had known that he was going to come out with that. And that's the other thing, isn't it? That we might go off script, or, we might do something which is upsetting to the family. So for the purposes of the client, I like to know so I can assist them.
It's difficult not having the benefit of reading it through and being able to say, oh, actually, maybe that's a little bit close to the line, or can I actually say that? It's far easier for that to just come out if you're just chatting.
Yeah. And I mean, the only other thing to say is that a human behavior is, if you're in a lecture hall listening to a lecturer, your attention span is approximately 20 minutes before your mind really does start drifting off. And that's if the person's interested in it, the intonation of their voice is interesting, and the subject matter, etc. And so really, if you're speaking in a scenario like this, and there's also going to be other elements like music and a photo tribute and, hymns, poems, whatever, people's attention to the speaking will be less. So actually you will be, in inverted brackets, potentially boring. And the last thing you want to be is that. You want to hold people's interest, and you want to, have them leaning into you telling a lovely story or your own thoughts about the person who's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not an unfair thing to say, I think. Nobody means to be boring, but Yeah, there's only a finite amount of trying to fill the gaps, uh, and lurching from one thing to another before people do start getting a little bit, yeah,
Yeah,
okay, it's time for something else now.
yeah. And the way out of this for lots of people who want to speak as well is to have some kind of service that is in a less formal setting, or where you have a lot more time. Say you have a village hall, your own home, the rugby club, where your deceased person can still be present, or this might be afterwards and it's a memorial, but it just allows everyone to have more time.
Yep.
So, I've certainly done an event last year for the mayor, previous mayor of the town I live in, and there was lots of people wanted to say things, and we just had a moment where we passed the mic round, and people said things, and most people said very brief things. One lady held on to the mic for a while, and I had to kind of walk towards her and hover around her for a bit and nod, and then I put my hand out for the mic, and then she finished her sentence eventually, because her story did go on for a while. But generally speaking, people will get the hint. But if you think lots of people have got something to say, then you could certainly do something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think summarize it as we always like to do at the end of these ones. Write it down. Be mindful of others, at the time in the setting that you are. If there's an order of service and you are speaking and you don't necessarily, to that point, hadn't necessarily known where you were speaking, have a look at how far through your service you are when you're on the order of service, and go, okay, well, I'm right next to last. That's okay, because we've only been here 20 minutes. Or I'm the second person and we've been here 20 minutes. Maybe I should get on with it a little bit.
Yeah.
Just be aware. Just be aware.
Yeah. And share with the celebrant minister, whoever's organising the event, the information you're going to say on the day in advance.
Absolutely. That will make all of our jobs considerably easier.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for listening to Good Goodbyes. We hope you found it helpful and informative. Please do leave us feedback, other topic suggestions, and subscribe for a regular listen and like and share if it all helps the show.
We're always interested to know what topics you like us to talk about, so do reach out to us if you have any ideas. If any topic leaves you thinking you need additional help or support, please do seek out professional advice. Take care and be kind to one another.